Hello YouTube, Rambling Painter back once again. Today we're going to be painting up the Christmas model that I showed off in the short that I made, and apologies again for being away for so long. I had different things with family and personal issues that kept me away for so long, so today it's themed around building a snowman, because it needs to be something holiday themed, and what better way for the winter holidays than building a nice little snowman with a friend. So today I wanted to talk about a game that I've been playing recently that has been very controversial in a lot of the ways people have been viewing it and reviewing it. It's got a lot of bad reviews, and I feel they've gotten those bad reviews for the wrong reasons. Now, I don't like using that phrasing because everybody has their own reasons, and people can just not like something to just not like something. But this game, I feel, has been bashed and severely judged, kind of based around people's own misconceptions on the game. So, what is this fantastic game? Well, it is the Callisto Protocol. Now, this is a recent horror game that came out. Many of the people that worked on it originally worked on Dead Space, and that is part of the reason that I feel some people were having misconceptions about this game. So, first things first, I want to address something. If you have seen reviews on this game talking about its optimization problems, on PC that is 100% justified. I have seen the optimization problems, and they are bad. There is no denying that it is not really optimized that well for PC whatsoever. But there's a lot of other reviews that I'm seeing out there that are judging this game not on its optimization, not on its mechanics or story issues. They're judging it based upon what it is not. I have seen quite a few reviews talking about how it's not Dead Space. It's not enough like Dead Space, and I feel that is unfairly judging this game, which is not a bad game at its core. Because, very much so, if you watched my original Dead Space video, I did talk about how Dead Space by itself was not exactly the most narratively understood game. It doesn't do much to explain itself, it just kind of exists. It gives us some bit of the story, but it doesn't explain the depths behind it, and it really feels kind of awkward. Like, the story exists, but it's hard to really follow it when you dig into it. And to me, the Callisto Protocol has a similar issue, but I feel like its gameplay-wise is not a bad game. It doesn't play rough, it's actually fairly smooth. The dodge mechanics are a little strange. But overall, the game does try to be more interactive. It invokes a fear in me that I haven't felt since the original Dead Space. In the original Dead Space, I could only play the game for roughly about a half an hour, and then I would have to put it down. I would just be too afraid and would have to put the game down to go and take a break, take a breather, because I was genuinely kind of scared by the game because it was just that well made, that well done. However, I don't get that some people are viewing the game from this perspective, because I am feeling that fear like I did in the past. The game, I can only play it for short bursts and sections because it's well atmosphered in a way that I don't even think some of the older Dead Spaces, or the previous Dead Spaces, Dead Space 2 and 3, I don't even think they didn't have the same kind of atmosphere that 1 did. I did not feel as scared in 2 and 3 as I did in 1. Now, as I do say, I feel 2 was a better game, and I felt it had a better story than 1 because it had more to it, because it had been more fleshed out. But I do sincerely think that 1 was a much scarier game overall. And with the Callisto protocol, I get the feeling of Dead Space 1's fear, but not of Dead Space. Now you might say, well, isn't that what you just said people are complaining about? Isn't that a fair complaint then? Well, no, there's a reason I say it's unjustified. And that is the fact that not anywhere that I have been able to find was any way this game portrayed as a Dead Space game. Nowhere online did I see where the company itself or the creators ever went out there and said, oh yeah, this game's going to be just like Dead Space. And it's really has feelings of Dead Space, but it doesn't act like it is Dead Space because it's not Dead Space. And I feel like that's the issue most people have with this game when they complain about it. It feels like their complaints are, this is not the game that I wanted to purchase. Or this game is not playing like I feel it should have played. Not, this game is not what I was promised. Because very much so, I feel like all the people that are saying that are believing what other people said. Because most any time I heard of the game being like Dead Space was not from the actual creators. It was from people like reacting to videos or other YouTubers or content creators who were watching their stuff. Like watching the trailers and all this. It never felt like it was the creators themselves going out of their way to say, this game will feel, act, be like Dead Space. It's like, I never heard that from them, and I never found any posts, any signs, anything that tells me that they had the intention of this game being like Dead Space. It has feelings, but it is not exactly like it. And I feel like that's why it's an unfair example when people sit there and they complain about it not being that. Well, it was never supposed to be it. It's its own title, its own creation, and I feel like people aren't judging it on that. They're judging it based off the game they were expecting. Which to me is very unfair because the game itself is not bad. As I said, it plays very smoothly. And as another review actually said about the game, usually when you use these actor characters, so like, for instance, when they used, man, what's his name, from Far Cry 6. When they used him, it didn't seem like he was the character in the game. He seemed like he was the actor. Or same thing with Keanu Reeves and being a Johnny Silverhand. It was hard to not see it as Keanu Reeves, no matter how much his character was not supposed to be Keanu Reeves. It gets hard to tell that sometimes with a lot of those kinds of characters when they're used in video games. However, this game actually did a really good job. There were actually multiple times where for all the characters that are big-name actors, I actually didn't even realize they were actors. That's just how good the atmosphere was for this. Even though they definitely look like them when you look back at it, it never felt like you would say, oh yeah, that's whatever the actor's name is. That it's like, no, you think, oh yeah, that's the character from the game. That's who they are, because they really did a good job portraying them and a real good job really with the facial groupings. It felt real, for lack of better phrasings. And to me, that's one of those things where people don't look at that aspect. They look at what they want. And what they decided they wanted was Dead Space. When the game was not marketed as it, the game was not at all in any way, shape, or form saying that, oh, this is a Dead Space game. And while I get when it's from the original creators, some people will have their expectations, and I get that. I do. But that doesn't justify how much people decided to say this is a bad game because of that. It's not enough like what I feel it should have been, which was another game entirely. It just kind of really drags it down, and it, to me, just isn't a good argument. Now, as I said, the optimization on PC, that was horrible. That was bad. I don't know if they were able to fix that or not. But for PlayStation, it ran completely smooth. There were no jitters, no bugs, no issues that I had. The game looked beautiful. Sound design was phenomenal. The gameplay was interesting, focusing on purely melee with the weaponry being a secondary. And the way you upgrade it feels really smooth, and it never feels like a crutch tool. Because, for instance, in Dead Space, if you ran out of ammo, you were in trouble. In this game, you always run out of ammo, but that's not your main form of attack. It's the melee. So everything feels more dangerous because you're they're right in your face, right up in the fight. However, it feels more controllable because you're not either constantly running into ammo to supplement the fact that you have to have ammo, or you never feel like there's a lack of protection for yourself. Now, the game does have its problems. The enemies are excessively strong for having to melee fight them, and for how janky the dodging can be. Now, on PC, I hear it's actually really easy to dodge and get the dodge patterns down, because when the game isn't completely breaking, all you have to do is press the left or right directional keys, whereas on PlayStation, you gotta use those lovely, lovely things called a joystick. Which means if you're ever so slightly off, you don't do anything. So it is not the best system in terms of making dodging functional as part of the movement. However, it's not impossible. They do react a bit fast for me to be able to do anything, but my reflexes being slow does not make the game itself bad. Because while, yes, technically speaking, if they slowed them down a bit, I could probably react to the block and it still wouldn't be, shall we say, easy, because especially with their damage numbers. But I do understand to a degree as well. I'm sure they had to build it that way for safety and balance. Because after all, if it was too easy to dodge, then you'd never have any threats. And the enemies do weirdly feel like they take their turn in an odd way, because if you're not facing them, unless they're the only enemy, they have to like grab you and turn you around, so you're facing them to attack. It's not perfect. In fact, I would definitely say this is a game that I would definitely give maybe a 6 or 7 out of 10. But the sheer amount of people saying this game is absolutely terrible because it is not another game is why I felt I had to make this video, why I had to talk about it. There's not a lot I can talk about the game, because outside of the sound design and the combat, I don't want to get into the story. I really don't, because I do believe you should play it. It's not a very long game, but it is a very fun game. It does have a very interesting play style. And yeah, sure, the story, as I said, it's a somewhat generic story, but I don't think that's a bad thing. But I do feel it's worth your time, it's worth playing. And I don't feel it's worth half the criticism that the game gets, because it's not Dead Space. It was never meant to be Dead Space. So the people that are saying that it's not like Dead Space, it's kind of an obvious and should not be a negative, because it wasn't meant to be Dead Space. So why would they want their game to be Dead Space? But anyways, outside of that one, that's pretty much all I can give for the review. Highly recommend it. 6 out of 10, and some of my reasons for it, without going into too much detail on the story and how some things play out. so as to leave some surprises for you if you go to pick it up yourself, or if you just watch a walkthrough of it, whatever your choice is. But now I kind of want to talk a little bit about sort of some of my plans going forward. So, as I've mentioned before, I do want to try and get back into the swing of making these videos. It hasn't been the easiest for me, mostly due to time constraints because of people needing help around me and other such things has put a bit of a strain on me making these videos. But I do want to try and do my best, at least getting you guys some shorts of what I'm working on, if not a full-length video. And so I'm going to be doing my best to try and do that. I don't know how well it'll work out. That's why I don't want to try and put a time frame, because I don't want to feel really bad about myself if I don't hit it. So I want to be careful about giving a time frame on stuff, just to be safe, because the last thing I want to do is make a promise and break it. So hopefully I'll be able to start focusing more on doing more of these, using my time a bit better to try and get these videos out, or at least get you guys a short kind of detailing what I've been doing or what I've accomplished, hopefully on a more regular basis sometime here in the near future. Now, outside of that,